By the time you start thinking about monetizing your part-time personal brand, you absolutely need to have a system to fall back on, because otherwise, you being a creator online, managing a personal brand, you are going to find that just as hard to manage as an actual job. And don't get me wrong, it does get hard to manage, but if we remember from video 1 in this series where we talk about the MVCP, the minimum viable content plan, being a part-time creator is a little bit different to just becoming a normal content creator, because you're playing a bit more of a long game. You are posting at a cadence that suits your lifestyle, your schedule, but you're showing up consistently. You're monetizing eventually, but building up the right base to be able to do so. And when it comes to being able to manage a content system alongside your 9-to-5 job or full-time business, because that's probably why you're watching this video. You want to become a creator on the side of what it is you do so that you have a personal brand to amplify what it is you do. When I had my corporate job and I was being a content creator on the side, the only thing that I really stayed on top of, like my minimum viable operations process, was having a content system, like a content operating system. And for me, Notion was the ultimate place I did this. I've been using Notion since 2019. I've used it to manage my personal life, my to-do list, journaling. But the one thing that has stayed consistent and has honestly kept me from falling off social media completely is having my content dashboard housed in Notion. And the way I've set this up is really, really key, I think, to being able to stay on top of things, really minimize your anxiety when it comes to staying on top of things, and eliminating procrastination, basically making the process as easy as possible to do, which is why my type A Virgo brain was the perfect kind of brain to try and put together this content calendar or content system on Notion. Now, it is a dream to be able to say that Notion are actually really kindly sponsoring this part of the video. So we're going to take a tour of the content calendar and the content dashboard, what elements of the content dashboard have enabled me to stay sane and stay consistent as a part-time creator, and honestly stay organized and avoid burnout, because your priority is always going to be your 9-to-5 job or your full-time business, and having your content operating system or your content dashboard kind of running in the background, ready for you to pick up when you have that time, that minimum viable content plan that you're attacking, is the way to stay in control and really honestly not lose your mind. So if you're a type A Virgo, like me, it's probably music to your ears. And this year, Notion also introduced Faces, which I think is a super cute alternative to my morning Zoom face, especially now that I take way more calls as a creator than a consultant. And the cherry on the cake is that you can get started on Notion and download this template for free and create your own portrait at the link in the top of the description. Let me thrive in my element and take you through this content calendar / content dashboard, because honestly, it's a work of art in my opinion. And honestly, this has evolved. This was a really different version like 4 or 5 years ago, and actually there might still be a YouTube video up where I was going through one of the very early versions of this exact calendar. But there are a lot of elements here that I will quickly go through that really help you avoid burnout, avoid anxiety, and avoid procrastination. These are the important things that I like to stay on top of when I have an idea, when I'm creating an idea, and then once I've published my idea as well, because there's a kind of method and system for each part of that process that enables you to, like I said, avoid the burnout, anxiety, and procrastination. Now, the best part of having this in Notion is the fact that this is one database. In my actual calendar, there are so many video ideas that I've just taken up all of these tabs, and you can essentially have one database with a bunch of ideas, and you can filter them and view them in different ways based on what you need from that data. And that's personally my favorite part of Notion, because I don't have to create multiple dashboards, and I also don't need to know a lot of coding, to be honest. The thing that really keeps me sane here is the editing and the publishing calendars. So we've got an editing calendar. It's essential for me to actually just pop in and see, okay, I've got these 2 videos I need to work on this week. I can plan in my head my gym sessions. Previously when I had my corporate job, I'd think, okay, well, I want to have my hair washed and I want to work from home on these 2 days so that I can record in the evening, and then I can go into the office on, for example, Thursday, and then I can record on Friday evening. Like, that's how it would have worked with my corporate job, in terms of being able to quickly look at this and see what kind of time I've chunked out for actually editing things, filming things, getting things to that publishing date. Now, alternatively, I also have a publishing calendar, and this one is really essential for me because I can then look at my publishing calendar, which is almost acting like an editorial calendar, and seeing, okay, for the next month, like in my actual calendar, I'll have videos on each Sunday, and I can see that I'll have weekly videos showing up here, and I can see that on each week I'm talking about such and such topic, which allows me to then kind of cascade those topics into Instagram posts or TikToks or my newsletter. It allows me to think ahead on the status of things and how I can shape my actual socials. And if I was actually just posting that once a week and that was fine, it's just a way for me to just sense check that, okay, this is scheduled or posted. Is the one for 2 weeks' time still in the editing process? Do I need to work on that maybe a little bit this week? Do I have free time? And then I kind of organize my time based on that. So the editing and publishing calendar is really for my own personal time management, for me to look at and quickly cross-reference. Now, these automatically update when you actually go into a card and then change the actual filming and live dates. So if I set this filming date from the 3rd to the 7th with the end date, it would show up on the editing calendar. And then as soon as I pop in a live date, it would show up in the publishing calendar. And the nice thing about this content dashboard is that there are a few automations in there. So once I actually move things into posted, the live date will update for that date and it will automatically show on the publishing calendar. And the nice thing about Notion is I can actually just move things around. So if this actually went live on Saturday, I can just move it back to Saturday. The thing about refining your actual time management and content creation process is ensuring that these 3 columns is how you're spending most of your time. Now, you want to ensure that the things that go into the good ideas column are actual good ideas that you're going to work on. How do I personally do this? I use a combination of Notion and actually my Apple iPhone notes. So I use on my Apple iPhone notes, I use the hashtag system and I use smart folders. So every time I have an idea, I will add a new note, I will hashtag with content, and then your iPhone is actually, well, you don't actually have to create a smart folder, but you can actually go to the tags in the homepage of your notes and you can click on the content tag and it will show you all of the notes that you've hashtagged with content. And I will go through all of these notes that I've hashtagged and add the ones that I think are good ideas into my Notion dashboard and then delete them from my Apple iPhone notes. And that's a content filtering system for me that really works in terms of making sure that from the moment I sit down to either write or research or script, I know exactly what it is I'm actually writing, researching, and scripting, because that decision making and reducing the time that you're taking to actually think through things is essential to being able to manage content creation and building this brand on the side of all the million other things that you do. Now, once you've refined this process, the other nice thing is that I like a status called ready to film, because that for me is a really good indication of, okay, I have a day where I'm free in the evening, I feel good, I'm maybe in my ovulation phase or something like that where I'm ready to film. And it means that I can sit down and I know exactly what to say, what to sit down and talk about. And for example, if this had moved from needing research and writing into being ready to film, I'd know that I have 2 videos here that are ready to go. I can just bash them out and then tick filmed. And the nice thing about this is that when I actually tick filmed, so for example, I'm on the day I'm filming, I tick filmed, it will automatically move itself into editing. It'll take some time, but there we go. It moved itself into editing, so I don't actually have to remember to change the status on things as long as I'm ticking things. And for me, that's just a nice way of, again, managing my anxiety when it comes to focus time or deep work time. I know exactly what it is I have to work on. I don't have to do any preparation tasks or decision making ahead of time to actually get the work that I need to get done. And the same thing applies to edited. So if I ticked edited here, it would move into needs captions, and then I could add my captions, potentially even thumbnails, anything else. You can actually change the statuses. These don't have to stay the same. And then you can work on scheduling and then eventually posting. Now, this is the way that I like to look at my ideas and make sure I know what's in kind of what status or phase. And as long as you add editing dates to everything, it's a really great way to see exactly what status everything is in as well. So for example, with this one, if I add a filming date of 27th to the 28th, I know that, for example, that one, now it needs captions, and you can actually just keep changing these. You don't have to keep them across 2 dates. I like to do that sometimes for filming, if I'm filming B-roll and things. But you can see here, like for me, I really love to be able to open the editing calendar and instantly see that I've got one video that needs captions, one video that's ready to film, and one I need to edit. So it's a really great way for me ahead of the week to plan my time. If you work across multiple platforms, which I did when I was at my corporate job, I liked to have a tab that allowed me to see that allowed me to filter these ideas one level down into platform. So for example, I can see that for my YouTube channel, I had one video I needed to edit. For my LinkedIn, I had 2 posts, or I had 3 posts. So I had one good idea, I had one that was ready to film, and maybe one that needed a caption. So this is a good one for if you do multiple platforms, but if you're just focusing on one, it's not that necessarily. And now the last 2 tabs are I think the key to actually being able to evolve, iterate, and grow your brand by doing the most minimal work possible. So the content review calendar is essentially a formula-driven calendar. So when you have a post essentially here, so let's go into this one. Once you've posted a post and you have a go live date, there will be a review date that automatically populates that is 3 months after your go live date. So you want to make sure that these go live dates are as accurate as possible, and it doesn't matter really about when you post things, just make sure that this date field is being filled out, and you'll automatically have a review on date being added. And this content review calendar is basically based on that date. So if I go to May, you can see here that I need to review this post that I posted that I would have posted back in February, for doing a little bit of time travel right now. And what I want to be doing on these review dates is adding in some stats from the post. So maybe this one went a little bit viral, 16,000 likes, 1,000 saves, and 5,000 shares. Sounds to me like it could have been a great post. So that means I'm marking it as a winner. And here there's only one option. You either mark it as a winner or this just stays empty. So you want to do the 2 tasks of filling out all this information and marking it as a winner or not on the review date. And once you've done that, you essentially have done this post live date checklist. So recording likes, saves, and comments. You can record what worked. And maybe if you're not marking it as a winner, you can record what didn't work. And this allows you to essentially log the topics, the content formats, the content in general. You're allowing yourself to actually mark what's working. And then the final tab is a way for you to see all of these content pieces that are winners. And because I marked this one as a winner, it will appear here. So for example, if this one actually if I posted it, and then because I'm posting on the 3rd, it will show up again on the same date, May 3rd. Here, transfer out of counting, and then maybe it had like 77,000 saves, which is really great, which means it's definitely a winner. It will show up in content winners. And what you want to do with content winners is essentially use this to then repurpose content. So which is why on here you've got a little tick mark or cross, you've got a little checkbox for repurpose. So you can check which ones you've repurposed versus not. And it's a great way for you to just think about how you can take the content you are already creating and double down on the things that work, create different versions of them. And I have created a little guide for you to be able to do that in the actual template itself. So let's use this as a segue to dive into the actual template of the content pieces that you're using in this calendar, which for me are also essential for just removing anxiety and being able to structure all of my content in a similar way and get used to actually jotting down the things that work versus that don't work, and also just a good format for content as a whole. The things I like to log are the niche. So what kind of content am I actually talking about? What kind of content type is this going to be? Just so that when I do log things as winners, I can see that, okay, this is a winner as a carousel. So then when I repurpose it, maybe I could try and repurpose it as text on a video. And then the platform, just so that for organization purposes, you know which pieces of content are going where. For the actual piece of content itself, let's go into a brand new content idea. When I want to create a new piece of content, I can essentially just add a new page, and you will automatically get a template here. And that's because in this actual content creator dashboard, I have got a template that I've created so that every single post follows this exact format. And that for me, again, anxiety, poof, gone. This allows me to essentially just create the structure that I mentioned before. I like to have a pre-creation checklist. So I finalized my hook, I've planned out any B-roll, I've planned out the visual concept. This is more for YouTube videos. So if I want to actually have different like elements to my YouTube video, or I need like animations or anything like that, I can actually just plan that out here. And then also the call to action, because I personally always forget about a call to action, so I like to just pop it in here as a check mark so I don't forget. A post creation checklist, which is really important. I think we feel like once we create content, that's it, but especially for YouTube, and just making sure that you're staying organized and disciplined with your content and not just like throwing things at the wall. Making sure that you're writing your captions, your music and your sounds have been selected, and then scheduled it in your calendar or your Notion calendar here as well. And then, like I mentioned, for the content review tabs, having a post live date checklist and recording the things that did and didn't work is a really good habit to get used to. And the automatic 3-month date that appears here will really help you to do that. The main part of this, which is something I heavily rely on, my hook, my content, and scripts for voiceover. So especially if I'm voicing over short form, I like to write each thing I'm saying on a line, especially with the hook. So the hook, content, and CTA, and the most important part is the repurposing plan. The way I like to repurpose is using different formats and the same content, and also just different angles. So you can use the exact same content and maybe just have a negative hook, or use a different story point or like an actual story to tell the same kind of point, or make the same kind of point that you were trying to make in a previous post. So it's a way for you to think, okay, I've done that one and I've done this one, so maybe I could try the other ones. And just remember what options you have, because combining different versions of these are going to be the ultimate way to try and repurpose and double down on the things you've already done and create less work for yourself in the future, because that is the key thing in terms of managing being a part-time creator alongside a full-time job. So that is a tour of the content dashboard and how I use it. It really starts to work as you use it more and more. And the key thing about finding something that works for you to help you manage content creation and a full-time job or a full-time business is finding that one thing that you need to do that's going to keep you sane and keep you moving forward. And for me, that was being on top of my content and my emails. And emails, I will tell you, I will not lie to you, that I struggled with the first few years. They were really incredibly hard to balance. A lot of my imposter syndrome came in when I was trying to manage my emails, and I self-sabotaged a lot. But my content, it was always there, and that was because of the calendar. So figure out that one thing that you know that you need to keep moving in order for your brand to keep growing, and it is going to be content. But what element of that is the thing that you need to stay on top of? Is it filming? Is it scheduling? Is it captioning? And make sure that that part is being incorporated into the management system that you decide to take on. The things that I think you need to focus on in terms of managing overwhelm is reducing that decision fatigue, and the content calendar really helps with that in terms of when you sit down, you know what you need to do, and being ruthless about what inbound projects you take on, especially in the first few years, because I think it's super essential to Just focus on building a brand and not really taking on that much, because you absolutely don't need to in those first few years. The monetization, the cool projects, they will come. When you post online, you will attract really cool opportunities. So I think focusing on consistency and trying not to take on too much and being super ruthless with your time in those first few years is really going to pay off in the long run. It will allow you to stay consistent. You will only grow if you keep posting. Like, if content is going out, you will grow and the good things will happen. So that is the process you need to protect the most, which means that you can't risk taking on loads of projects. You can't risk burning out. You can't risk losing your creativity, because those are the things that are going to stop the content going out and eventually stop anything good coming to you, whether it's cool projects, money, opportunities, anything, right? So to avoid burnout, to avoid hating the thing you're doing, you need to do a little bit of it over time, which means setting strong boundaries with the actual thing that we're trying to do. And the boundaries that I really stuck to during my corporate job, I would not do anything content related too late at night, because oftentimes I had a really long, intense corporate job. So I was working past the hours of like 9 to 6 or 9 to 7. And that meant that I was tired, exhausted, mentally frustrated. If I then forced myself into content every single day, into the hours of the night, I would hate it. I would have hated it and I would have given up a long time ago. Give yourself one full day off of content creation, social media, anything like related to this stuff. You want to be able to balance your own hobbies, your own time, laundry, like I keep talking about with all this stuff. Give yourself a day off. Allow yourself to get back to emails within 48 hours. It doesn't have to be in the day. Nothing bad's going to happen from that. And decide on a day where you don't have to do anything camera facing or high energy. They're all content related, of course. You can't really control that with your 9 to 5 or maybe your business. But give yourself those boundaries that allow you to manage your energy so that you're not tied to having to do certain things when you don't want to do them. Because again, that will encourage burnout, which will just stop you being consistent. And remember that when you feel overwhelmed, you can just scale back. It's better to slow down and allow life to happen rather than panic and fall off the wagon completely. Just remember, this is a part-time personal brand. You do not need to post all of the time. You do not need to go viral to be successful. You just need to find the posting cadence that suits your lifestyle and that allows you to be consistent. Building a personal brand and growing on social media isn't about doing everything, it's about doing the right things at the right time. And coming up next in the series, I'm doing a whole deep dive on how to actually find those little hours in your week to devote to content creation and build out that MVCP so that you're invincible and able to stay consistent to grow your part-time brand online. And don't forget to grab my free chapter on finding your strategic niche if you're trying to build a personal brand part-time online. It's a guide on how you can find the niche of you, the strategic niche that's going to pull from the things that you're good at versus the things that you do that allow you to show up in a really unique way online and build this personal brand from day one. I'll catch you in the next episode, guys. Thanks for watching.